Real Frank.
Hello, welcome to Real Frank's Movie Reviews. This episode, we're going to review the movie The Green Knight, starring Dev Patel. The movie is about King Arthur's nephew embarks on a quest to confront the Green Knight, a mysterious giant who appears at Camelot. Risking his head, he sets off on an epic adventure to prove himself before his family and court. My special guest reviewer for this episode is my friend Kevin. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hello, Frank. How you doing?
Great, fantastic. So, The Green Knight. Very, very interesting movie here.
So, I thought, okay, this is probably a movie Frank would never watch on his own, right? So I thought it'd be an interesting movie to talk about.
It's a very good choice because you're absolutely right. Because usually I'm not a big fan of these time period pieces like this back in days of King Arthur and stuff. But
right.
This one was not bad from that period. It was very entertaining from a unique perspective.
Right. So how this movie got on my radar was I saw the trailer. Did you even watch anything before you went in the movie? Did you even know what you're walking into?
Nope. I took you suggested this movie, and I just went blind.
Right. So I saw the trailer, popped up on YouTube or whatever I was watching it, and I just loved the trailer. So this was like when this movie came out, I said, I have to see this movie in the movie theater, right? So that is my journey to the movie, right? So I went into the local AMC, watched it, and I liked it, but it wasn't quite what I expected, right? So...
Well, that's interesting because I didn't see the trailer, so now I'm curious to know what the trailer was like. What was the trailer like from the perspective?
Really, it shows the highlights. It shows the giant coming in, or the green man coming in, and him going on his journey. So you see the highlights. You see the giants in there. You see the fox. You see the main characters. But I didn't have any knowledge of the actual poem it was based off, right? So
wait, it's based off a poem? So
do you remember at the beginning when it talked about the 14th century poem by Anonymous?
Yes, but the font that they showed that scripted font was very hard to read, and then they flash it so fast that I'll start making out a word, then it's gone. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? No,
there's some. So it was slower paced than I was expecting, and I think it was vague by choice, right? And so after it, I did a lot of. I watched a couple YouTube videos to get some other people's thoughts on it because it was I don't know about you, but it was a very difficult movie to process as you're watching it, right?
Well, Kevin, let me tell. I'll be honest with you. I have no clue what the fuck I watched.
Yeah, I can see that. There was a guy snoring in the movie theater and I was watching it, right?
Yeah. It was very confusing for me. It's one of those movies where you have to watch a couple times to, I think, truly understand it. But yeah, I had no clue what's going on. I didn't understand the thing with his mom, right? The mom was blindfolded and doing these power things. I had no clue did she make the giant? Is that what made the giant appear? I was so confused by that.
Right. Yeah, she did, right? So yeah, it was the way they intercut it between her and the vague stuff she was doing, and the party that was going on, and everything else. It was a little hard to follow if you didn't know what was going on or familiar with the poem, and I didn't. So yeah, so it was. There wasn't a lot of. I like the dialogue in the movie, but there was a lot of slowness between scenes too, right? When he's walking to, and so
there were a lot of slowness, but that's where I was impressed with the cinematography with the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the scenes were
it's a very good looking movie.
Very good looking. It was shot so well, and when he's walking on the horse for long periods, and the scenery in the background, the way they're shooting the horse movement, and the way the camera's moving with it, I thought that was amazing.
Yep.
It was so fantastic.
Especially the overhead shot when he was walking to like the marsh or whatever. That really impressed me, right?
Yeah.
So,
They really thought about it, and they really put, how they wanted to film it and what it was going to look like. So, and the camera movements too, the way they kept, it didn't look like anything was going on, and it wasn't. There was quiet, just you heard a horse going pat, 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 pat. But the way they're moving the camera around, you're looking around like, oh my God, this is so amazing the way they're doing this. So I got a question for you. Another part I was very confused with was the scene where he's on the horse and he's coming across that area where a bunch of bodies are and they're all burned, and there's that little guy there. And then the little guy takes his stuff, right? I didn't understand what the hell that was all about. Because then all of a sudden the hatchet thing or whatever, the big thing he was taking to the Green Giant or the Green Knight appears in that house he discovers. So I was very confused by that whole scene. What was your take on that, or what that whole thing meant?
So here it's there was I forget the YouTube guy, but I watched this thing and I think this crystallized what the movie was. It really comes down to his quest to become a knight. So I wrote down some notes. There's like 5 points of. Give me a second here, Frank. I don't have it pulled up. Okay, so generosity, chastity, friendship, courtesy, and piety. Those are the 5 points of becoming a knight. And he basically fails at all of them, right? So I think the scene with the scavenger, like, how the scavenger asked for money?
Yeah, and he gives him the coin.
Yeah, so basically he failed that. So I think my takeaway from this, these are all tests on his way to becoming a knight.
Okay.
Right? Because he wasn't a knight. And, how King Arthur said, this is your way to go on a great adventure and become a knight. And I think after thinking about it for a while, it really comes down to, it starts to make sense when you start looking at the movie in that perspective. Okay, these 5 virtues that he has, and he doesn't pass any single one of them on his journey, right?
So that makes sense. So what's amazing is if you go see this movie without any help, you don't have a fucking clue what's going on. But now you explain it to me. All right, it's starting to make a little sense there, because when you're trying to piece it as you're watching it, you're like, this is all fucked up. What's going on?
Right.
Well,
yeah, agreed. So I think it's the way the director designed it was like layers. Like, he doesn't come out and say what it is, but each scene is directed around a certain challenge to him, and he fails every single one. So
this is interesting. I was telling my wife about this movie just a couple hours ago, because I went and saw it by myself, and I was like, I saw this fucked up movie. We're going to talk about this movie. I don't know anything about this. So I start telling her about the movie, and she's sitting there and she goes, I got it. It's about the environment. It's one of those environmental movies. Like, the Green Knight represents the environment, right? And you're trying to save the environment, and you chop the guy's the head off. It's bad for the environment, right? So she turned it into this environmental wrong type of thing versus bad and good against the environment, how we're killing ourselves. And she's like, wait, into this? I'm like, how the hell did you pull that out? I saw the movie and I didn't even think about that. And just my awful description, she pans that together. I have no clue how. What's your opinion on that? Do you think it had anything to do with environmental issues or anything like that?
No, I think it has more to do with... Do you remember the Lord and Lady scene when he was in that palace? And she had that big long monologue about what the Green Man is, right?
Yep.
So basically she said the Green Man is... Did she say it was like death or life? So to me, I think my takeaway is the Green Man, it represents death, I guess, at the end. We all return to the green. So that monologue was a little hard to follow too.
It was that that's another confusing part for me. That whole part of him in that house, I did not understand, because there's another old lady with the bandage across her eyes like his mom was.
You know who that was? That was his mom.
That was his mom.
So, yeah.
Then who were those two other people? That guy that's doing all the hunting, and then the other mistress lady or whatever she was considered.
I think it was a test of friendship, right? The guy, he said, remember the line he said, whatever I get on the hunt, I give to you.
Right.
But you must also give me any gifts that you receive in here.
Right.
And what did he have? He had that, he got that magic belt back that would protect him from harm.
Uh-huh.
And he kept it. And the chastity scene, like, she was like a test of his chastity, right?
That
like,
chastity scene was crazy, right? Like,
yes.
I don't want to give it away, but I was like, what the hell happened here? It was like a CSI crime scene after that.
That's a good way to put it. That is something I never thought I would see in a movie.
Yeah.
There it was on the screen. So.
All right, that makes sense, talking it out like this. Now, the other scene I didn't quite understand is when he goes in the house and that girl says, "You're sleeping in my bed."
Oh, I think that was my favorite scene of the whole movie, right? Just the actress who played that, the way her presence was in that scene and the way he interacted with her, right? I think that was my favorite of the whole movie.
But what do you think that... I don't understand what that represented, because then the axe is there, right? The axe is there. He turns away.
Courtesy, I've heard courtesy was like she asked for his help. What did he ask for in return? Like, he asked, like, what are you going to pay me to get your...
Right.
To retrieve this item for you. Right. And then he went to touch her. Remember that scene?
And he said, "Yeah, don't touch me. You can't touch me.
Don't touch me." Right. So.
So that with the axe being there, so that means that guy where he was on the horse.
I don't know. That was a little vague of how the axe got back to where.
Exactly.
Right.
I was like, so was that guy there, and then dropped the axe off, and he's whatever happened to her is what happened to her by that guy, or it was very confusing to me for that part.
Right.
All right, man. I'm glad you picked this movie because it was very interesting. Not your typical movie, and I don't mind those, So I appreciate your choice here. So what score would you give the story?
I liked it. I would say a 7. I would give the story a 7.
Oh, wow. Pretty strong. Now, rating it after watching it versus discussing it with you and understanding it much better, I give it a 5.9 because I was like, my mind was...
Yes, it's very vague.
I was like, I have to come back to see this to truly understand this, because I felt you couldn't truly understand this movie the first time around. You have to see it twice, which is brilliant by the writer and director if that's what his goal was.
Right.
Which is, I had no problem with that, but it was a very original story, which was kind of refreshing to me. So what about the acting? Dev Patel?
Acting, I would give high marks.
Yeah.
Dev Patel was an interesting part he played. He wasn't very a vocal actor, right? It was like stuff was happening to him, and it was long stretches when he wouldn't speak. There were long stretches when people would talk to him, and he would not really talk back. So I think for him, it was more a physical role per se, but really I think the supporting actors, like every single one, I thought did a good performance, right? Sometimes the monologue's a little long, hard to follow.
Right, and with the accent too.
Yeah, with the accents going on. But I think they all gave strong performance. I would probably say that's a highlight of the movie for me, probably an 8. Right?
Okay, very good. I enjoyed the acting. It was very good acting, especially the guy who played King Arthur.
Oh, yeah, he was good.
I thought he was fantastic. The way he's voiced and the way he spoke, it was so believable to me. But like you said, with the acting with Dev Patel, like his eyes, his facial expressions, like you said, he's not having too many lines, but you could understand everything through his body movement.
Especially you saying that, like when he held Excalibur for the first time. Did that stick out at you at all when you watched the movie?
Well, up until this point, I didn't know that was Excalibur, Kevin.
Right.
But yeah, that makes sense now why it was such a special moment when he gave it to him to hold. Yes.
No, that was really that was another strong part of the movie. The way he reacted to holding the sword.
Yeah.
Right. The way the sword was lit. To be honest, normally it would look like a regular sword, but when he held it for the first time, the director put that special lighting on it.
Yes.
The way he stared at it. So.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I just thought the acting all around was great. I believed them. It was fantastic. All the characters I thought did a fantastic job. I give the acting a 7.5. It's just refreshing once again with an original story and some very, very good acting. Very believable. Like they were playing characters.
Yeah.
Cinematography. We kind of touched base on this. What was your opinion on the cinematography of the movie?
Probably I talked about the acting, but when I think about grade, like putting numbers to it, I mean, out of all that, I think cinematography is probably at the highest grade. So I would bump that up to a 9, right? So
yeah.
The way the world, like especially the opening scene where the camera just lingered on the building.
Oh, with the dripping water. They zoom out of the window and it gets smaller and smaller. And he's looking out the window. Then you hear the drip, drip, drip.
It just how the world was just dirty, like how actual medieval life would be like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I agree. Cinematography was fantastic. Like it was awesome. You could tell they put really thought into it. How each scene was going to be filmed, the way the camera angles were. It was fantastic. I give it an 8.5. I compare it to The Revenant. You ever see The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio?
I have not seen that yet. No.
You need to see that movie just for the cinematography because it's amazing. And I read somewhere that the director didn't believe in artificial light and it was all natural light. Like they had to specifically film at certain parts of the day to get those particular scenes. But in this movie, even though they weren't talking or there was a lot of silence, just noise around nature, but looking around, I was not bored. It was just the angles. I was all in. CGI. How did you feel about the CGI in here?
Yeah, I guess it didn't really stand out at me, so that's probably a plus, right?
Yeah.
I'll probably say an 8. Well, the Giants were interesting, right?
That's another part, Kevin. I didn't quite understand what that represented. Those giants walking by those mountains. What was that? I felt maybe I was stoned or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? My takeaway from that is when he asked for their help, like he wanted to take a shortcut to the hero's quest, right? Mm-hmm. Help me cross this valley, and either she was going to eat him or pick him up. I don't know what she was going to do.
Yeah.
The fox stood in the way. So my takeaway is that is another fail because you try to take a shortcut for the hero's quest, right? But yeah, that was a weird scene. So I would probably say a 7. We'll call it a 7. Right, so
yeah, I give the CGI 7.7 just because the Green Knight, the detail in that guy.
He was good, yeah.
And then the sounds, like when he moved and stuff. Oh,
amazing.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Right. And that whole scene where he's sitting there just staring at him for that period of time, and that the look on his face and stuff.
Yeah, and especially when he walked at the end, when he walked off, when he woke up and he walked down, right? Just the presence of him and the sounds they did with it was, that was amazing. So
overall, what do you give this movie overall rating?
I would say an 8.
An 8? So. Wow! Woo! It's a strong 8, man. For kind of a psychedelic plot here. I mean, going through it with you, okay, now I'm really starting to appreciate it. I understand it. But when I was sitting there, I was like, luckily I was by myself. There's only 2 other people in the theater. I was like looking around going, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? Overall for this movie, I give it a 7.1.
That's strong.
It is strong.
Ready for you.
It is very strong, only because the originality of it. The story was original. Acting was fantastic. Cinematography was thought out. The CGI was great. It's one of those movies you're going to talk about because you can't quite understand it. But it's not like mind-blowing after you talk to someone. I was mind-blown initially, but talking it out, it makes more sense to me. And I want to see it again now to really, truly appreciate it after discussion. So those are kind of fun movies for me.
Yeah, no, it was a fun movie to watch. Funner to look at a couple, like, other people's opinions after the fact, right?
Right. It was a great choice, Kevin, by the way. I liked it. So you give it an 8. I give it a 7.1. That's our review for The Green Knight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.